Hello, everyone. My name is Corey Thesey, and I will be presenting about comprehensive sex education, specifically in the United States. We're going to start with the history of sex education in the United States. So during the 19th and 20th centuries, sex education had very narrow goals. It was supported by the goals of social hygiene and moral purity activists inside the United States. And they thought that this was of greater importance than the sexual health concerns of today. Their goals aligned with ideas along the lines of stopping prostitution, the prevention of STIs and masturbation, and limiting sexual expression in marriage, limiting sexual expression to marriage. In the 1960s, sex education in schools began to gain widespread support because of the freedom movement and the sexual expression movement in the 60s and 70s. Toward the 1980s, two different philosophies had emerged. These two were comprehensive sex education and abstinence-only programs. Now, these two programs butted heads because they had opposing beliefs. Comprehensive sex education is what most of us are familiar with today, where they discuss most importantly and most distinctively from abstinence-only programs is they discuss contraception, whereas abstinence-only programs do not believe in contraception and they do not teach it. It is to be noted that over the years since the 1980s, there has been an abundant amount of research and studies that have proven that abstinence-only programs are ineffective. After the 1980s, there have been many guidelines or criteria and organizations that have been created to support sex education and its prosperity, especially comprehensive sex education. One of these, a landmark guideline, was the Guidelines for Comprehensive Sexuality Education, K through 12, in 1991. This really paved the way for many sex education programs today. It is also to be noted that comprehensive sex education provides medically accurate info that would lower risky behavior, whereas abstinence-only programs provided medically accurate info that would increase risky behavior. So as teachers, why do we teach it? Well, the primary goal of teaching sex education to young people is generally to promote sexual health, make sure that they are making the correct decisions, providing accurate info about human sexuality, to develop healthy attitudes about sexuality, develop communication, their decision-making skills, encourage making responsible choices about sexual relationships. Teaching sex ed to adolescents and even younger people helps protect them from making mistakes. They become more informed. They understand what to do with their bodies and what not to do with their bodies. It also reduces the likelihood of teen birth, as well as STIs and STDs. As teachers and as parents, we teach this because we want these young people to be informed and be healthy. You cannot make proper decisions about your body if you're not informed about your body, if you don't understand what happens when you use your body with someone else. So now it comes to the topic of when sex education should be taught within the school system. If you're like me, from a suburban portion of Illinois, then you were most likely taught sex education twice in your life, sometime in middle school and then sometime in high school. For me, I took one semester course in middle school, and I took a one semester course in high school. Now, it is my belief, and is the opinion of many other researchers, that this is not enough education to bring our young people up to speed about sex. sex education should become a much larger picture of education in total, like math, like English, like reading in general, like history. This is an important conversation, an important topic and information that we need to start at a younger age. In fact, there's even new research that indicates starting as early as kindergarten can actually improve uh, the knowledge and the understanding of sex education. And that's not a very difficult idea to grasp. We want our students to be literate in math, to be literate in reading, to be literate in math, reading, social studies, and we start these things at a very young age in elementary school. But we expect them to have the same um, ability to comprehend and implement information about sex education when we only give them 2 courses in their entire life. So in general, starting earlier will have a broader impact on our students, our sex education culture. It should be treated like all other foundational subjects, like math, like history. I will also include this quote that I thought was very important and really resonated with me. You cannot assume an adolescent will wait to become an adult before making adult decisions. Why should we have to wait until high school to have these really difficult conversations where they're already making these decisions? Oftentimes they learn this information after, after they've already been sexually active, and when they could have used it earlier. So pacing of content. If we do, hypothetically, if we do say that we implement sex education in starting elementary school, there's obviously a way we could do it. We're not going to have these really difficult and mature conversations with third, fourth, fifth graders. Okay, we need to start on a lower level, which is exactly what we do for math, what we do for reading. We start with your multiplication table, start with addition and subtraction. We start with reading sentences and your ABCs. Same thing can occur with sexual education. For example, in elementary school, we can introduce things slowly, like knowing your personal boundaries, when people like to be touched and when they don't like to be touched. Okay, how to create healthy friendships and relationships between your peers and your classmates. Understand the different family structures that we all come from. Okay, maybe you come from a joint household, or divorced parents, or a blended family, or even an LGBTQ family. Okay, those are things that are important or will really help pave the way for down the road as they mature. In middle school, you can start to amp it up a little bit by talking about general anatomy and physiology, discussing the penis and the vagina, discussing what intercourse is, as well as pregnancy and how people get pregnant and what happens with pregnancy, and also gender expression. In high school, we can start to have these more mature conversations where students are more engaged and more interested, because it applies more to them than anyone else. We can start discussing sexually transmitted infections, sexually transmitted diseases, sexual abuse within their relationships, menstruation, as well as contraception. As students get older, they're going to encounter difficult and more mature concepts, and they're going to be able to better handle them as they mature. These conversations will become more engaged and more important as they become older. So it's important to make sure that they are exposed to certain developmentally appropriate content at the right times in their lives. So when it comes to sex education, it's not just all about the students. You must have a teacher who is willing and able to possess certain teacher traits that will help make the classroom conducive for learning. And teaching sex education can be a particularly difficult course to teach because of the nature of the content. It can be quite embarrassing to talk about. It can be, it can be hard. It can be like pulling teeth for students to answer questions. So some of the important traits to have as a teacher, number one, would be the ability to develop positive relationships. You need this in every class. And sex education need to be able to be trustworthy. Students know that they can trust you with their information that they give you. so they can open up to you to have meaningful conversations. You need to be honest with your own personal experiences. Students cannot trust you if they don't think that you're being honest and genuine. Humorous. In sex education, it's very beneficial to be able to not speak in a matter of fact tone, but to be comical and humorous at times when needed. Easily approachable. If students have personal experience with the things that you're discussing in class, you need to be approachable so they can talk and confide in you and have those meaningful conversations. Also, as well as non-judgmental. If they approach you and try to let you in on their life, you have to be able to refrain from judgment. So I leave you this discussion question. If you're a teacher, when teaching sex education, what is the most important thing to consider if the goal is to promote sexual health? As a teacher, what do you place the most emphasis on throughout the semester? Thank you.